Hello, thanks for being here. I wanted to make a video for you to talk about one of my favorite topics, probably ever. I have a lot of favorite topics, but this one is about the state of humanity and where I believe humanity is headed, the direction that it's headed, and what's going on. Perhaps this is born of my attempts to try to make sense of a lot of weirdness that's in the air. Saw this post on Reddit recently on the subreddit Whoa Dude. It was just somebody tweeting or on Tumblr saying, people have thought that the world was going to end in 2012 according to the Mayan prophecy. But looking back on it, has any year felt real since then? And for a lot of us, it just kind of hit us. We're like, oh my God, no. Everything's been really weird ever since 2012. Did the world end on 2012? I have no idea. I'm not actually making an argument for or against that. But I did want to offer you a really sort of concentrated take on what I think is going on. And I think it's really beneficial to have an idea of what's happening to our population now. And it will kind of allow us to anticipate the upcoming years and almost to get ready for it. Not in a sense like we're bracing ourselves for it, but just in a sense like we won't be surprised, and we can at least start moving with the tide, moving with the wave instead of being pulled into the undertow. So the broad stroke is that our human population is undergoing a mass awakening. That would be my thesis. That is what I think is happening. And it's not just myself. A lot of people feel that way as well. So what do I mean by awakening? Awakening is something that is can be kind of put on a huge pedestal and made into a big, complicated, superhuman thing. But what awakening really is just becoming aware of yourself and aware of reality beyond just the five physical senses. It seems to me that this is something that is natural to humanity and natural to all living creations, all living organisms. Not that any other organisms have the ability to speak and articulate their thoughts the way we can, but it seems that if they could, they would speak very naturally and easily about a sense of connectivity, a sense of connection, connectiveness to all of life, not feeling separate from it. As opposed to a lot of humans who see themselves as I'm just this physical body and everything else is not this physical body, therefore it is myself and the rest of the universe that is apart from me. And then what would come along with that are these feelings of being against or at war with the rest of the universe, or trying to get as much as you can so that you can attach it to yourself and attach it to your sense of self at the expense of the universe. So it's kind of constantly an attacking or conquering or trying to get, and then later a defending against and trying to hold what you have so that the universe doesn't take it from you. Waking up is really all that's really required for that first awakening, that first crack in the egg, is to realize that you are not just limited to the physical body, and that reality is not just limited to what can be perceived by the five physical senses, and that there's actually reality beyond that, and that's usually enough to become at least vaguely aware that even though when we approach death, there is a certain termination involved in death. There is when we die, something does end and something is discontinued, but there's also something that does not die, or there's a part of us that exists outside of physical life that does not depend on physical life for survival. In fact, you could even go so far as to say there's an aspect of us that came into physical life intentionally, and that part of us that kind of made that decision to go into physical life still exists beyond our physical experience, and lies behind, after, before, interpenetrated by the physical body, the physical experience. And so that was there before physical life, it's there with the physical life, and continues to endure beyond the physical life. It sounds like a theory. It sounds like just something that you can say, but it's also something that you can investigate. It's something that does not require belief. People talk about believing in the spirit realm, the unmanifested realm, about belief in life after death, and it really doesn't serve anybody to believe in life after death. I think it's very intelligent to approach this kind of conversation with a lot of skepticism, to be very skeptical and be really discerning. So not to just, if somebody puts themselves in a position of authority and say this is this, not to just believe it and just accept it as true, but to investigate the reality of that for yourself. And so when I talk about awakening, when I talk about non-physical experience, I speak from my own experience. I speak from what I have discovered in my own investigations in meditation and in solitude and contemplation and reading and so forth. So don't necessarily, I'm not asking you to believe anything I'm saying. But there, myself and many people, many people everywhere, probably including yourself, we've all come to this point where we realize that there's actually more to life than the physical and what can be perceived with the physical senses, and probably like much more. In fact, the physical world, the physical body, the physical aspect of existence is actually quite a small slice indeed, like a very, very small slice of the whole spectrum of reality, which is enormous and quite unfathomable. The breadth of it is unfathomable, but different aspects can be fathomed. So awakening was reserved to a few back in the day. The famous ones, Buddha, Jesus, and perhaps others that didn't quite make it down in the history books. And what's interesting is that I really believe that which we are awakening to as a human population, again, readily available to us maybe 20,000 years ago or so. When at that point, maybe 20,000 years ago, there was a sort of an experiment that was made, a sort of semi-conscious decision to study what it would be like to hold ourselves separate from nature, hold ourselves separate from the universe, and develop a sense of ego and develop a sense of mind, and to really operate through the mind, operate with a sense of past and future, to invent past and future, because they don't really have any actual reality of themselves, because it's only now. So we started learning how to hold memory and to anticipate the future. Also, like getting into problem solving and building and imagining and bringing the imagined things into reality. That's all kind of an experiment that we began 20,000 years ago. That has been wonderful and really kind of cool, but it's also led us to some challenges. It's actually led us to some very real problems, because when we started really investing in this idea that we're separate from the universe, and that it's like myself versus the other, but also like humankind versus like nature, and we see, hurricanes and tidal waves and earthquakes and disease and all these things that's just like aspects of like an indifferent, cold universe that kind of comes in just to mess up our shit for no reason at all, just because the universe is cruel, and so therefore we have to continue to science on to better safeguard ourselves against the universe, which constantly threatens us at every point. What that has led to is us kind of not allowing ourselves to be stewards for the earth, but instead seeing the earth as something to be disposed of and to be used and exploited. And so that's how we've justified mining fossil fuels and burning them, like, a lot, and taking like the animal kingdom, like taking cows, for example, and breeding them and coming up with hormones for them and raising them in like these, kind of pretty terrible sort of scenarios so that we can have burgers whenever we want it. And just really, and cutting down rainforests and just doing like stuff that to you and me, like right now, it's just starting to seem a little weird. Like, just like, how is this okay? How are we making this okay? How do we just go about our lives, saying that this is like not crazy and it's okay to do this on a day by day basis. We have been throttling the golden goose, so to speak, from Aesop's fable, and we've been just juicing Earth and nature, and really messing a lot of it up, and really bringing ourselves, with our frame of mind, seeing ourselves as separate from the universe, bringing ourselves to the brink of extinction. And what's kind of interesting about these times is that I think, now this is an assumption that I'm making, we all sense that we're on the brink of extinction, and we're not sure if we're going to go extinct or not. And we kind of like look to each other like, everything's okay, right? Is everything okay? Like, we're all kind of like, not really sure, but everybody else seems to be feeling okay, and we're kind of going about our daily business, and so therefore, everything must be okay. And it is, viewed from one perspective, and it can be, but it's not, as far as I see, it's not a guarantee that humanity is going to make it through the next 100 years. It's just not a guarantee. Like, especially if you just look at how incredibly quick shit is hitting the fan now, and the rate at which shit is hitting the fan is accelerating. It's quicker and quicker and quicker, and how incredibly exaggerated it's all becoming. Trump is president. It's been half a year at this point, a little bit over half a year, and all of us, like, we're still like, is this actually happening? Is this real? Is this like, are we proceeding with this? What it seems is required in order to not go extinct and to save ourselves is for all of us to wake up as much as possible, and not just wake up, but continue to wake up and continue and to start to trust the intuition that we're all getting, that we need to start individually taking care of not just the earth, well, it's a big part of it, but taking care of each other, and to deliberately and purposefully introduce more peace and to resolve as much conflict as we can, and really start taking ownership of our population and ownership of the earth. And ownership isn't actually such a good word, but stewardship, to watch over, to take care of, to use our creative powers, our mind powers, to take care of the earth and to take care of each other. So that's part one. Some notes here, I'm just consulting. So humanity's waking up, awakening, becoming aware of existence beyond the physical, and then with that awareness, realizing, discovering, and sensing and deepening that sense of our connectivity with all things, connection with the earth, connection with God, connection with the cosmos, connection with each other, connection with family, connection with our body, connection with the weather, perhaps, maybe. And so here's the cool part. This is what excites me, is that I want to emphasize that, like, it really still can go either way. We can go extinct or we can save ourselves, and we can save ourselves, but we also may go extinct, and it's really we're gonna see. It's not certain. I don't think it is, but the trend that we are going in as a population, the trend that we're going in, and the trend that will rescue us, I think, is one, becoming decentralized. What has happened is our existence has been set up in such a way that we centralize ourselves, and we do that in a number of ways. Like we centralize our authority in that we make it so that there are just a few authority figures that we learn from. We centralize money, wealth. Wealth tends to just flow towards a very small percentage of people who own property, and the property just attracts money, just absorbs money. Power is centralized. We created America. I'm filming this in Canada, but we're really, being as we're neighbors with America, we're really looped in for a lot of this, and a lot of power is just kind of filtered all the way up to the White House. Power is also in the hands of the biggest companies, the biggest corporations, and the CEOs, and just there's a few people that just make decisions for a lot of us. And when we came together and we formed the idea of democracy, however, 200 or something years ago, the idea was like everybody would have a say, and that was like a gorgeous thing. But now we all kind of feel, we're starting to really get this feeling like we don't actually have a say in what goes on, in government, and certainly not within corporations. And centralization of authority and information and power and money and decisions are made, and they're kind of trickled down. But what's happening now is there is instead a great network that is forming instead. And so specifically with information, we share it with each other on the internet. We come up with our best stuff and we share it freely. And so whereas before we would have to consult experts to get answers to our questions, or kind of established, institutionalized experts. Now we can just, Google a question, we can just get the answer, and usually the best answers can just kind of trickle to the front, and we can access them immediately. What's kind of interesting is money. Cryptocurrencies have been developed. I understand so precious little about it, but it's money that the government didn't make up, and it's being recognized strangely as actual money that's being passed back and forth. And what's also really cool is work and employment. And if you're unemployed and if you're hurting for money, I would really like you to listen to this particular part, because this is very, very valuable. It's been valuable for me, and I think it'll really serve you, which is that if you were born like myself in the 80s, early 90s, 70s maybe, we all went to school, and we were taught by teachers who were preparing us to work at that time, to work in the 80s or the 90s based on their own experience, which is, of course, all the jobs are controlled by government and corporations. Like, jobs are created by these big powerful bodies, and we would apply for them and we'd get them, and we would just kind of submit to work for them, and they'd tell us what to do, and we'd do it, and we'd get our money, and we'd be allowed to live generally a comfortable life. We'd be allowed to live a life where we'd have vacation and enough money to buy a house, and to support 2 or 3 kids, and maybe to invest into a retirement. And that was kind of the promise. And now, because see, that way of life, it's still here, but it's so concentrated and so weird, and it's so on its last legs that all these big corporations, as you've been seeing, they've just been letting go of all these employees, and they're just downsizing, and all the power and money is being concentrated into fewer and fewer people, and there's fewer and fewer jobs. To look to start your life in a place like that is really, I kind of want to say it's a loser's game, or it's a losing game, and I don't say that because like there's some people who really make up their mind. They want to work for Facebook, or work for Google, or work for any sort of big company. And if you've really made up your mind you want to do that, then it's there for you. I believe that you're the creator of your reality. But the whole mass of us who have just been told to look for work with corporations, it's not there. It's a dwindling resource. But at the same time, there are all these people with all these problems and all this help that they need, and you can help them. People have problems that you solved a long time ago very easily, and probably realistically you solved them so easily that you don't see it as valuable yourself. You just see it as something that everybody can do, but not everybody can do it. And that's been a lesson that I've been struggling with a lot, because I've been having a hard time just valuing what comes to me naturally. I'm sure it's happened to you as well. It happens to a lot of us. But the means have been laid out. We are connected, we are networked, we are interconnected. And you can just go online and you'll be flabbergasted. You will be positively flabbergasted when you offer what you know as a solution to other people's problems. You'll get hits, you'll get views and likes, and people will reach out to you, and you'll be able to help them, and you'll realize that you're in demand. And you'll realize that people are willing to pay you for it. And all you have to do is just experiment with it. Now the thing is, you didn't go to school for this, and you probably don't have any training in this. And that's okay, because there are people who have took it upon themselves to teach you how to do it. They have programs that teach you how to do it. But this is all happening in real time. We're all learning how to serve each other. And the more you learn how to do it, and the more we learn how to provide services and accept money from each other, instead of going through corporations and government, although, pay your taxes, that's probably a good idea. You can claim power for yourself, and you can claim sovereignty over your life, and you can feed yourself and pay yourself and be the master of your destiny. So I would encourage you to at least try it, and also just realize that that's where this is going. That's where all of this is going. We are being decentralized, and we're not just resorting to corporations and government and people with power to tell us what to do and to take care of us. And it's scary and it's uncharted territory, but here we are in these exciting times. And so that would be part 2. Now part 3 is to prepare yourself for continued destabilization. Forgive me if this is something that's already abundantly evident, but we are living in unstable times. And what's unstable is the old way of being. That is unstable because it's falling apart. The way of separation, the way of concentrating power and money, the way of having people be authorities over us and people be our masters. All of that is subject to destabilization, and it's dissolving. And as it's dissolving, almost as a strange entity of itself, It is throwing out its best tricks, and it's throwing out its best stuff, and it's just exerting its greatest possible influence and power to try to maintain its life, because that's kind of what it does. It's just maintain survival. That's what it's good at. And that's kind of what I think President Trump is, because like Trump, like when he was running and when he was elected, kind of like what he was, what he represented was just a big final thrust of energy and power, and like, no, like we're this is falling apart, but we're gonna pull this back together again, and it's gonna be like how it was. When he keeps saying make America great again, like really what he's saying is we're gonna make it how it was, back in the 60s when everything made sense and everything was knowable and we had jobs and and things were kind of like stable and so forth. And it's the last hurrah. And we all know where this is going. It's not working. It's not working. So instead of looking to that, if you want to feel the stability, feel what's emerging underneath, because it's quiet. It's decentralized. Nobody is its champion. Nobody is the authority of it. Nobody runs it. It's not run by anybody. That's the coolest thing. It's something that's actually happening autonomously. It's happening on its own, and we're all tuning into it. And we're all jumping on board with it, and we like it, and it feels good, and it's exciting, and we can and it's sustainable, it's organic, it's a small batch, it's artisan, it's all of us. Like on one hand, we're tuning back in with nature and our immediate surroundings and assuming stewardship over it. And also we're becoming aware of our whole population, thanks to the internet, and we're serving each other over the internet and, taking care of each other. And the more we can do that, the more we can just not look to authority and power to take care of us and start taking stewardship for ourselves and taking care of each other. We can make it out of this. We can make it out of this alive. That's part 3. Part 4. Conflict. The old way of separateness is very much based on conflict, because in the old way of thinking, it's like we feel like we're gonna die. We feel like we're constantly on the brink of death, and so we have to keep growing. We have to keep getting more. We have to become stronger and bigger so we can defend ourselves more. And that leads to conflict, because we're trying to expand and like make more of all of this into myself. That's why you had there's this time when Britain and France and Spain, Portugal, just back in the 1500s, I don't really know that much about it, these are broad strokes, but just went out and just like claimed as much land as they can. And weirdly, like it's still like there's still like Caribbean islands that are Britain. And so there's still conflict now where we're trying to expand and get more resources and such, and a lot of resources are being allocated towards this conflict. Trillions of dollars going into the US military. And not even to mention like all the money that's going into like police work and enforcing borders. And just think about all the jobs and all the people whose lives and all the money, all of that is dedicated to keeping us separate, keeping us safe, and also taking over more. And I get it. It's because, well, there's people who want to come in and destroy us. There's terrorism and so forth. I get it, right? But imagine if we didn't imagine if we started allocating some of those resources towards conflict management. What if we started allocating those resources towards understanding the other? And instead of fighting or defending against, we started investigating the option of, what does the other want? How can I take care of the other? How can we make it so that all of our needs are served? How can we dissolve conflict? That is, as it seems to me, the biggest resource. If we can dissolve conflict, conflict is the great suck of resources. Personal energy when we're in conflict with other people, and national resources when it's one country against another. What if we were to just start assuming that other people, that everybody else wants to feel safe just like we do? And we have that in common. All 7 billion of us, everywhere, want to feel safe and secure. And what if we're all just attacking because we feel threatened on some level? And what if we could invest, maybe, right? Maybe, I don't know. But what if we just investigated that and started looking at how to dissolve, like how to look at what everybody wants and to start taking stewardship over each other as well? Then all of those resources could be allocated towards more creatively tackling all these immediate threats and taking care of each other. That was part 4. Cool. Well, that was pretty fun. Just looking at my notes to make sure I got this all. Yes. Thank you for watching. And I don't know. Let me know if you think this is right. Let me know if you if that sounds true to you. If a part of it doesn't sound true, let's talk about it. In the meantime, I'll catch you later.